Captain Hyun-woo Park sat in his small office on Earth's defense station, drinking his third cup of coffee that morning. The communication device on his desk started beeping loudly. He looked at the screen and saw an incoming message from the Galactic Council. His heart skipped a beat. The Galactic Council never contacted Earth directly. For the past 50 years, humans had been trying to join the galactic community. Every request was denied. The aliens thought humans were too violent, too unpredictable, and too primitive. Earth was like the kid nobody wanted to play with at school. Hyun-woo pressed the accept button. The screen filled with the image of Chancellor Vexathari, a tall alien with purple skin and 4 arms. His voice came through the translator with a strange electronic buzz. "Captain Park of Earth Defense," Vexathari said, his tone unusually friendly. "We have reviewed your recent cultural offering. The Galactic Council is very impressed with Earth's generosity." "Cultural offering?" Hyun-woo asked, confused. "I'm sorry, Chancellor, but we haven't sent any cultural offering." Vexathari's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. "But we received your list of Earth's most desired citizens, the ones you wish to share with the galaxy for cultural exchange. Very generous indeed." Hyun-woo felt his stomach drop. "Most desired citizens? Can you show me this list?" The screen changed to show a document in galactic standard text. At the top, it read, "Earth's most desired citizens, available for cultural exchange." Below were names, photos, and descriptions. Hyun-woo recognized them immediately. These were criminals from Earth's most wanted list. There was Tai-Min Lee, wanted for hacking into government systems. His description now read, "Digital artist specializing in system integration and creative data manipulation." Jin-Ho Choi, an arms dealer, was listed as strategic military consultant with expertise in advanced weaponry concepts. "There must be some mistake," Hyun-woo said quickly. "These people are not—" "Not what?" Vexathari interrupted. "Not brilliant, Captain Park? We have studied their achievements. This Tai-Min Lee penetrated your most secure systems using only basic equipment. Such skill is remarkable, and Jin-Ho Choi's knowledge of weapons technology is clearly advanced. Your species must be incredibly sophisticated to produce such talented individuals and then offer them freely to other worlds." Hyun-woo's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He needed time to think. "Chancellor, can you give us a few hours to prepare the proper documentation for this exchange?" "Of course," Vexathari replied. "We have already received requests from 17 different star systems. The Krextar Empire specifically requested Jin-Ho Choi for military consultation. The Veldrun Trading Federation wants Yoon-hee Nam for economic strategy. Your criminals, your cultural ambassadors are in high demand." The call ended, leaving Hyun-woo staring at a blank screen. He immediately called Dr. So-Jin Kim, Earth's top expert on alien languages and communication. She answered on the first ring. "So-Jin, we have a problem," he said. "A big one." 20 minutes later, So-Jin sat in Hyun-woo's office, reading through the galactic communication logs on her tablet. Her face grew paler with each page. "This is incredible," she said. "The Universal Translator made a systematic error. Every instance of the word 'wanted' in our criminal database was translated as 'desired' in Galactic Standard. But it's not just a simple word swap. The context algorithms interpreted the entire database as a cultural sharing program." "Can we fix it?" Hyun-woo asked. So-Jin shook her head. "Not easily. The translation has been distributed across the entire galactic network. Correcting it now would require accessing thousands of systems across hundreds of worlds. It would take months, maybe years. So what do we do? Before So-jin could answer, Hyun-woo's communication device beeped again. This time, it was an internal call from Earth's maximum security prison. "Captain Park," the warden's voice crackled through the speaker. "We have a situation. 3 of our inmates are demanding to speak with you. They say aliens want to hire them as consultants." Hyun-woo sighed. "Send them to conference room 7. We'll be right there." The conference room was normally used for military briefings. Today, it felt more like a bizarre job interview. 3 of Earth's most notorious criminals sat across from Hyun-woo and So-jin, still wearing their orange prison uniforms. Tae-min Lee was a thin man in his 30s with quick, intelligent eyes. He had been serving 20 years for cyber-terrorism. Jin-ho Choi was older, stocky, with scars on his hands from handling weapons. He was in prison for life for arms dealing. Yoon-hee Nam was a woman in her 40s who looked like someone's friendly aunt. She had conned people out of millions of dollars. "So," Tae-min said, leaning back in his chair, "aliens think I'm some kind of digital artist?" The translation error made your hacking skills sound like legitimate technical expertise, So-jin explained. Yoon-hee laughed. "They want me for economic strategy? I robbed people, not helped them invest." The translator interpreted your confidence. "Schemes as advanced economic theory," So-jin said. Jin-ho remained quiet, studying the alien request documents. Finally, he spoke. "These Krekstar aliens, they're warriors?" "According to our files, yes," Hyun-woo replied. "Their entire culture is based on military strength and honor. And they want me to teach them about weapons? They think your knowledge represents advanced human military science." Jin-ho smiled for the first time. "Maybe it does." Hyun-woo felt a headache forming. "Listen, all of you. This is a serious situation. We could tell the aliens the truth and probably face their anger for deceiving them. Or we could see where this goes," Tae-min finished. "Captain, do you know how long I've been stuck in a cell? If aliens want to give me a chance to use my skills for something other than destruction, maybe that's not such a bad thing." "You'd be representing Earth," So-jin warned. "If you mess this up, it could mean war. And if we don't try," Yoon-hee said, "Earth stays isolated forever. At least this way we get a chance to prove humans aren't just violent primitives." Hyun-woo looked at each of them. These were dangerous people, criminals who had hurt others. But they were also the only chance Earth had ever gotten to join the galactic community. "There would be conditions," he said slowly. "Monitoring, regular. Check-ins, any sign of trouble, and you come back immediately." "Agreed," all 3 said together. An hour later, Hyun-woo stood in the communication center, preparing to call Chancellor Vexthari back. Ambassador Dong-hyun Song had arrived from the diplomatic corps, looking nervous and excited. "Are we really doing this?" Dong-hyun asked. "Sending criminals as ambassadors?" "We're sending humans who have skills the aliens want," Hyun-woo replied. "What they did with those skills in the past doesn't change what they can do in the future." The call connected, and Vexithari's purple face filled the screen again. "Captain Park, have you prepared the documentation?" "Yes, Chancellor. Earth is honored to participate in this cultural exchange. We're ready to send our first 3 representatives." "Excellent. Transport ships are already en route to collect them. The galaxy is eager to learn from human expertise." After the call ended, Hyun-woo sat back in his chair. In 3 days, Earth's most wanted criminals would be scattered across alien worlds. representing humanity to species they had never imagined. So Jin looked at him with concern. "Do you think this will work?" "I have no idea," Hyunwoo admitted. "But for the first time in 50 years, aliens are interested in what humans can offer. Even if it started with a translation error, maybe we can turn it into something real." Outside the window, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that its future now depended on 3 criminals and a computer glitch. The galaxy thought it was getting Earth's most desired citizens. Time would tell if they were right. 3 weeks had passed since the first transport ships left Earth. Jin-Ho Choi stood on the observation deck of the Krextar battleship, watching the red sun of their home system rise over the horizon. The ship was massive, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. Everything was made of dark metal and sharp angles, designed to look threatening. The Krextar were warriors, that much was obvious. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin and bone ridges along their foreheads. Their leader, General Mokhtar, had 4 arms and carried weapons on each hip. When Jin-Ho first arrived, he expected to be thrown in a cell or executed. Instead, they treated him like a visiting professor. "Master Jin-Ho," General Mokhtar said, approaching with heavy footsteps. "Are you ready for today's demonstration?" Jin-Ho still felt strange being called master. On Earth, he was a criminal. Here, he was an expert. "Yes, General, but I should warn you again, human weapon technology might seem basic compared to yours." Mokhtar made a sound that Jin-Ho had learned was laughter. "Basic. Master, you designed projectile weapons that use chemical explosions for propulsion. Our energy weapons are powerful, but they require massive power sources. Your basic weapons can be carried by individual soldiers and manufactured anywhere. This is brilliant tactical thinking." They walked to the training area where dozens of Krextar soldiers waited. Jin-Ho had been teaching them about Earth weapons for 2 weeks. Not how to build them, but how to think about combat the way humans did. The Krextar were strong and tough, but they fought in predictable ways. Human criminals, Jin-Ho explained, survived by being unpredictable. "Today we practice ambush tactics," Jin-Ho announced. "Remember, the strongest warrior doesn't always win. The smartest one does." Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, Yunhee Nam was having the time of her life on Veldrun, the galaxy's biggest trading planet. The cities floated in the clouds above a gas giant, connected by bridges that sparkled with energy. The Veldrun themselves looked like giant butterfly people, with colorful wings and 6 arms perfect for handling multiple business deals at once. "Honored." "Yunhee," said Trader Zilksvan, her assigned guide, "your presentation to the Commerce Guild was extraordinary. Your concept of confidence-based value creation has revolutionized our understanding of market psychology." Yunhee smiled, sipping, something that tasted like sweet metal from a crystal cup. On Earth, confidence-based value creation was just a fancy way of saying conning people. Here, the aliens thought it was advanced economic theory. "The key," she explained to a group of eager Veldrun traders, "is understanding that value isn't just about the product. It's about how the customer feels about the product. If you can make them feel smart, special, or part of something exclusive, they'll pay more." The Veldrun took notes frantically. What Yunhee was describing were basics, con artist techniques, but to them it was revolutionary thinking about customer relationships. "But how do you maintain long-term customer satisfaction with this approach?" asked Trader Kixamol. That was the question Yunhee had been dreading. Her cons on Earth never worried about long-term satisfaction because she disappeared after getting the money. But here, She had to give an honest answer. "That's the advanced part," she said carefully. "You have to actually deliver value. The confidence and good feelings are just the beginning. If you don't provide real benefit, customers will eventually leave. The art is in making sure they get something genuinely worthwhile while feeling great about the experience." As she spoke, Yunhee realized she was describing legitimate business instead of criminal activity. The thought made her uncomfortable and excited at the same time. On the other side of the galaxy, Tae-Min Lee was discovering that the Techno Council of Nexus Prime lived inside a giant computer. The entire planet was one massive machine with billions of artificial minds working together to solve the galaxy's most complex problems. When he first arrived, Taemin expected to see advanced robots or sleek computer interfaces. Instead, he found himself in a world that looked like the inside of a circuit board, with pathways of light connecting floating platforms where data flowed like rivers. "Human Taemin," spoke a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We have studied your infiltration techniques. Your ability to find weaknesses in secure systems is remarkable." "Thank you," Taemin replied, still amazed that he was having a conversation with an entire planet. "But honestly, your systems are so advanced that my techniques wouldn't work on them." "That is exactly why we need to learn from you," the voice replied. "Our security is perfect, but only against attacks we can anticipate. Your methods are based on thinking we do not understand. You exploit not just technical weaknesses, but psychological ones. You understand that the real vulnerability in any system is the beings who use it." Taemin had never thought of his hacking that way, but the Techno Council was right. He didn't just break into computers, he tricked people into giving him access. He exploited human nature, not just computer code. "We want you to help us understand chaos," the voice continued. "Our minds are logical, predictable, but the universe is full of illogical beings who make unpredictable choices. How do we prepare for the unexpected?" For the first time in his life, Taemin felt like his criminal skills might actually help people instead of hurting them. Back on Earth, Ambassador Dong-hyun Song was dealing with a very different kind of chaos. His office was full of alien representatives, all requesting specific criminals from Earth's wanted list. The translation error had spread across the galaxy, and now every species wanted their own human cultural consultant. "Ambassador Song," said Ambassador Zixathara from the Spiral Coalition, "we specifically request the human called Mi Young Kang. Her expertise in aggressive resource redistribution would be valuable for our trade negotiations." Dong-hyun tried not to wince. Mi Young Kang was a pirate who stole cargo ships, but according to the translated files, she was an innovative logistics expert specializing in rapid resource reallocation. "And we want Seung-ho Bae," added Representative Chlorvex from the manufacturing worlds. "His background in creative industrial solutions is exactly what our factories need." Seung-ho Bae had been imprisoned for industrial espionage and sabotage. Somehow, the translator had turned that into advanced manufacturing consultation. "Honored representatives," Dong-hyun said carefully, "Earth is committed to this cultural exchange, but we need time to prepare our citizens for their important missions." What he really needed was time to figure out how to turn more criminals into fake ambassadors without starting an interstellar incident. Dr. Sojin Kim knocked on his office door. She looked exhausted from working around the clock on translation. "Protocols. The reports from our first 3 are coming in," she said quietly. "It's incredible, Dong-hyun. They're actually succeeding." She showed him the classified communications from Jin-ho, Yun-hee, and Tai Min. Each reported that their alien hosts were not only satisfied but enthusiastic about human expertise. Jin Ho is teaching the Krextar about guerrilla warfare tactics, So Jin explained. He's framing it as asymmetric strategic thinking. The Krextar love it because it makes their smaller forces more effective against larger enemies. Yun Hee is revolutionizing Veldrun business practices. She's teaching them customer psychology and sales techniques. They think she's a genius. And Taemin is helping the Techno Council understand security vulnerabilities they never considered. He's teaching them to think like attackers so they can defend better. Dong Hyun sat down heavily. So our criminals are actually helping these aliens? More than helping, So Jin said. They're solving problems that have existed for centuries. The Krextar have been losing battles to numerically superior enemies. The Veldrun have been struggling with customer relations. The Techno Council has been vulnerable to chaos-based attacks. And somehow our worst people have solutions? So Jin nodded. Think about it. Criminals survive by being creative, adaptable, and understanding weaknesses that law-abiding people ignore. These are exactly the skills that highly structured alien societies lack. Before Dong Hyun could respond, his communication device chimed with an urgent message from Captain Hyun-woo Park. We have a problem. Hyun-woo's voice crackled through the speaker. 3 more alien delegations just arrived at the space station. They're not here to request criminals. They're here to study Earth directly. They want to know how we create such innovative thinkers. Dong Hyun looked at the crowd of alien representatives still waiting in his office, then at So Jin's tired face, then at the reports from their criminal ambassadors who were somehow becoming heroes across the galaxy. I think, he said slowly, we're going to need a bigger deception. Outside Earth's atmosphere, alien ships continued to arrive, drawn by stories of human ingenuity that had spread from world to world. None of them suspected that Earth's greatest cultural export was its biggest mistake, turned into its most unexpected success. Mi Young Kang had never expected to prevent a war, especially not while sitting in what looked like a giant flower made of crystal. The Zephyrian Empire's council chamber was beautiful, but strange, with petals of colored glass that changed color, based on the mood of the speakers. Right now, everything was flashing angry red. The Nexari dogs have insulted our honor for the last time, shouted Council Leader Vashite, his tentacles waving dramatically. They refuse to return our sacred. Moon, war is the only answer. Mi Young watched from her seat as the Zephyrian leaders worked themselves into a fury. She had been on their world for only 2 weeks, officially serving as a logistics and resource management consultant. The aliens thought her piracy background meant she was an expert in rapid acquisition and redistribution of materials. They had no idea she was just a thief who stole spaceships. But 2 weeks of listening to Zephyrian politics had taught her something important. These aliens argued like children. The sacred moon they were angry about wasn't even inhabited. It was just a rock with some old temples on it. The Nexari had claimed it because of an ancient treaty that nobody could fully translate anymore. Council leader, Mi Young said, standing up. Her voice echoed strangely in the crystal chamber. Before you commit to war, have you considered a third option? The tentacled alien turned toward her, his skin flushing darker red. What third option, human consultant? The Nexari have rejected every diplomatic solution. Have you tried making them not want the moon? Mi Young asked. The entire council fell silent. This was apparently not a concept they had considered. Explain, demanded Vashite. Mi Young smiled. This was exactly like planning a heist, except instead of stealing something, she was going to make someone want to give it away. The Nexari took your moon because they thought it would make you angry, right? So what if you acted like you didn't care? What if you publicly announced that you were glad to be rid of it? But it is sacred to us, protested another council member. I know, Mi-young said patiently. But they don't know that you know they don't know that. Look, the Nexari want to hurt you by taking something precious. If you convince them the moon is actually a burden, they'll want to get rid of it to stop helping you. The council members looked at each other with confusion. Mi-young sighed. Aliens were smart about technology and science, but they seemed to have no understanding of basic psychology. Trust me, she said. I've made a career out of getting people to give me things they didn't want to give me. This will work. 3 days later, Mi-young watched from the Zephyrian flagship as her plan unfolded. The Zephyrians had announced that they were grateful to the Nexari for taking responsibility for the cursed moon and its expensive maintenance requirements. They even sent a thank you message. The Nexari, confused and suspicious, sent angry messages demanding to know what curse they were talking about. The Zephyrians replied with fake scientific reports about dangerous energy readings and unstable temple foundations that required constant monitoring and costly repairs. Within a week, the Nexari were begging the Zephyrians to take their moon back. Brilliant, whispered Vashite as they watched Nexari ships retreating from the disputed moon. Your human tactics are unlike anything we have studied. You turned their aggression against them without firing a single shot. Mi-young felt a strange warmth in her chest. On Earth, she had used these same tricks to steal from people. Here, she had used them to prevent a war that would have killed millions. Meanwhile, on the industrial world of Manufactus Prime, Sung-ho Bay was causing a different kind of revolution. The factories here had operated the same way for thousands of years, with perfect efficiency and zero innovation. Every process was documented, regulated, and optimized by artificial intelligence. It was also incredibly boring. Supervisor Bay, said factory manager Drixnall, a spider-like alien with 8 arms and dozens of eyes, your proposed modifications to production line 7 are highly irregular. Sung-ho looked at the holographic factory layout floating between them. On Earth, he had sabotaged factories like this one. He knew every weakness, every shortcut, every way to make things work faster or fail completely. Here, they wanted him to use that knowledge to make things better. The irregularity is the point, he explained. Your current system is perfect, but it's also predictable. Any disruption shuts down the entire line. My modifications create flexibility. But flexibility creates inefficiency, Drixnall protested. Sometimes, Sung-ho agreed, but it also creates resilience. Look, your factory produces exactly 1 million units per day, every day, as long as nothing goes wrong. But if one machine breaks, production stops completely until it's fixed. He manipulated the hologram, showing alternative configurations. My way, you might only produce 950,000 units on a normal day. But if a machine breaks, the line keeps running at 800,000 units while you fix it. Over a year, you actually produce more. Drixnall's many eyes blinked in sequence as he processed this concept. You are suggesting we accept planned imperfection to avoid unplanned failure? Exactly. On Earth, we call it redundancy and adaptive systems. The idea is that things will go wrong, so you design for that instead of pretending they won't. 3 weeks later, Sung-ho's modifications had increased overall factory output by 15%, More importantly, when a meteor shower damaged the main power grid, his factories were the only ones that kept running on backup systems. Other factories took days to restart. His kept producing at reduced capacity throughout the crisis. How did you know to prepare for that? Asked Drixnall as they watched the production reports. Sung-ho shrugged. On Earth, I spent years figuring out how to break systems like this. You learn to think about all the ways things can go wrong. Once you understand how to break something, you know how to protect it. But not every human consultant was having such smooth success. Jae-won. Master thief and professional criminal was currently hanging upside down in an energy cage above the sacred vaults of Nexus Prime. This was not how he had planned to spend his Tuesday. Remarkable, said High Curator Zenthok, studying. Jae-won like a fascinating specimen. You penetrated 7 layers of quantum encryption, bypassed our molecular scanners, and disabled our gravitational locks. And you did it with equipment we would consider primitive toys. Jae-won tried to look dignified while dangling in midair. Look, I can explain. I was just testing your security systems. You know, professional consultation. Oh, we know, Zenthok replied, his crystalline features sparkling with what might have been amusement. That is why we are not executing you. Instead, we wish to study your methods. Study my methods? Our security is designed by the finest minds in the galaxy, the curator explained. It is mathematically perfect. Yet you defeated it using intuition, creativity, and what you called looking for things that don't belong. We cannot program intuition into our systems. Jae-won was lowered to the ground and released from the energy cage. So you're not angry that I broke into your most sacred place? Angry? We are grateful. You have shown us that perfect security is an illusion. We need to understand how criminals think if we want to stop them. Well, Jae-won said, rubbing his wrists, the first thing you need to know is that we don't think like you expect us to. Over the next several hours, Jae-won found himself giving an impromptu lecture to the entire Nexus Prime Security Council. He explained how thieves looked for patterns in guard rotations, how they exploited the assumptions of security designers, and how they used social engineering to get information that no computer system could protect. Your security is perfect, against other perfect systems, he concluded. But criminals aren't perfect. We're chaotic, unpredictable, and we cheat. You need to design security that can handle chaos. By the end of the week, Jae-won was officially appointed as Special Advisor for Chaotic Threat Assessment. His job was to think of new ways to break into things so the Nexari could figure out how to stop him. Back on Earth, reports of these successes were causing panic in certain circles. Investigator Ha-Yun Lim from the Galactic Ethics Committee had arrived unannounced, demanding to inspect Earth's cultural development programs. Ambassador Song, she said, her pale blue skin gleaming under the office lights. The Ethics Committee is fascinated by Earth's approach to citizen development. How do you create individuals with such innovative thinking? Dong-hyun Song smiled nervously. Ha-Yun Lim was known throughout the galaxy as someone who could spot deception from parsecs away. We believe in giving everyone opportunities to use their unique talents. Indeed. Your citizen Jin Ho Choi has revolutionized Krextar military doctrine. Yun Hee Nam has increased Veldrun trade efficiency by 30%. And now we hear that Mi Young Kang has prevented a major war using unprecedented negotiation techniques. We're proud of their achievements, Dong Hyun said carefully, as you should be. But I must ask directly, these individuals were criminals. Before they became cultural ambassadors, were they not? Dong-hyun's heart stopped. I'm sorry, what makes you think that? Ha-Yun Lim smiled, and it was not a reassuring expression. Investigators' intuition. Their methods are too familiar. I have spent centuries studying criminal behavior across dozens of species. Your cultural ambassadors think exactly like the criminals I have captured. The truth was out. Earth's greatest diplomatic success was about to become its biggest disaster. The question is, Ha-Un continued, whether this matters. Crime rates have dropped on every world where your people have been stationed. They are solving problems that have existed for generations. Perhaps the galaxy has been too focused on where skills come from instead of how they are used. Dong-hyun stared at her, unsure whether he was about to be arrested or congratulated. We need to discuss this further, Ha-Un said. I believe the Ethics Committee needs to reconsider some very fundamental assumptions about justice and redemption. Outside the window, more alien ships continued to arrive, each hoping to learn the secret of Earth's remarkable citizens. None of them knew that. The secret was simply giving criminals a chance to use their skills for something other than crime. Investigator Ha-Yun Lim stood in the center of Earth's maximum security prison, looking at the empty cells where the galaxy's most celebrated cultural ambassadors used to live. The prison warden, a nervous man named Director Kim, followed her through the corridors, sweating despite the cool air. These cells belong to Jin-Ho Choi, Tae-min Lee, and Yoon-hee Nam? She asked, running her finger along the metal bars. Former residents, yes, Director Kim replied carefully. They were selected for the cultural exchange program based on their unique qualifications. Ha-Yun smiled. After 30 years as an investigator, she could smell deception from across a solar system. Their unique qualifications being armed robbery, cyber terrorism, and fraud? Director Kim's face went pale. That is, they were rehabilitated through our advanced programs. Director Kim, Ha-Un said gently, I am not here to punish anyone. I am here to understand something remarkable. In 6 months, your former prisoners have achieved more positive change across the galaxy than most diplomats accomplish in decades. I need to know how. She walked to the prison's main computer and connected her tablet. Within minutes, she had accessed the complete criminal records of every human currently serving as a cultural ambassador. The list was impressive and disturbing. Mi-young Kang had hijacked 47 cargo ships. Sung-ho Bae had sabotaged 12 different factories. Jae-won-oh had stolen artifacts from museums across 3 continents. Yet each of them was now being praised as a genius by alien civilizations. Director, I want to speak with your remaining prisoners, the ones who haven't been selected for this program yet. An hour later, Ha-Un sat across from a woman named Bo-Ra, Shin in the prison's interview room. Bo-Ra had been convicted of running the largest illegal gambling operation in Earth's history. She was supposed to serve 20 more years. Bo-Ra, Ha-Un said, tell me about your crime. Bo-Ra shrugged. I ran numbers. Betting, odds, risk assessment. I was good at predicting outcomes and managing probability. And now? Now I sit in a cell doing nothing while my friends get to travel the galaxy and help aliens solve problems. Bo-Ra leaned forward. Look, I know what I did was wrong. I hurt people, broke families, destroyed lives with gambling addiction. But I also understand statistics and probability better than most university professors. Couldn't I use that knowledge to help someone instead of hurt them? Ha-Yun made notes on her tablet. What would you do if given that chance? The Valdoran Commerce Guild has been struggling with market prediction algorithms, Bo-Ra said immediately. I've been reading about it in the prison database. Their trading systems can't handle the chaos of biological decision-making. They're losing billions because they can't predict when living beings will make irrational choices. And you could help them. I spent 15 years making money by predicting exactly those kinds of irrational choices. Yeah, I could help them. Ha-Yun interviewed 12 more prisoners that day. Each conversation revealed the same pattern. Criminals with deep understanding of systems, psychology, and human nature, all sitting unused in cells while the galaxy struggled with problems their expertise could solve. That evening, she met with Captain Hyun-Woo Park and Ambassador Dong-Hyun Song in Earth's diplomatic center. The room was filled with alien communication devices, each one beeping with new requests for human consultants. The situation is remarkable, Ha-On began, and deeply troubling. Troubling? Hyun-Woo asked. Our people are helping entire civilizations solve problems. Yes, and that is exactly what troubles the Galactic Council, Ha-Un replied. Specifically, it troubles the Mortek Collective. Dong-Hyun winced. The Mortek were the galaxy's most rigid species, obsessed with law, order, and proper procedures. They viewed any deviation from established rules as dangerous chaos. Supreme Arbitrator Koltek has declared your cultural exchange program a threat to galactic stability, Ha-Un continued. He believes that celebrating criminal expertise will encourage lawlessness across all worlds. But the results speak for themselves, Dong-Hyun protested. Crime rates have dropped on every world where our people are stationed. They're not encouraging lawlessness, they're preventing it. I know, Ha-Yun said. That is why I am here unofficially. The ethics committee is split. Half believe the Mortek are right, that criminals should be punished, not rewarded. The other half believe you have discovered something revolutionary about rehabilitation and redemption. She activated a holographic display showing crime statistics from across the galaxy. Look at these numbers. The Krekstar system has seen a 40% reduction in military conflicts since Jin Ho Choi began teaching them strategy. The Veldrun worlds report 30% fewer commercial disputes since Yun Hee Nam introduced new business practices. The Zephyrian Empire hasn't had a war in months. So what's the problem? Hyun-Woo asked. The problem is that you lied, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Supreme Arbitrator Kolthek himself entering the room. The Morthek leader was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like stone and eyes that glowed with cold blue light. His very presence made the room feel colder. Supreme Arbitrator, Dong-Hyun said, standing quickly. We weren't expecting you. Clearly, Kolthek replied, his voice like grinding metal. Ha-Un, you were supposed to investigate quietly. Instead, I find you conducting interviews and praising criminal behavior. I am praising results, Ha-Un replied firmly. The criminals you despise have accomplished more good in 6 months than most law-abiding citizens accomplish in their entire lives. They are criminals, Kolthek stated. They broke laws. They harmed innocent people. They chose to act against the common good. That they may have accidentally helped some aliens does not erase their crimes. Accidentally? Hyun-Woo stepped forward. There was nothing accidental about it. These people used their skills deliberately to help others. After lying about their nature, Kolthek countered. Your entire program is built on deception. You told the galaxy these were your most valued citizens when they were actually your most dangerous criminals. The translation error was not intentional, Dong-Hyun said. But continuing the deception was, Koltek replied. You could have corrected the mistake immediately. Instead, you chose to profit from it. The room fell silent. Koltek was right about that part. Earth had made a conscious choice to continue the deception rather than admit the truth. What do you intend to do? Hayun asked. The Morthek Collective demands that all human criminals be returned to Earth immediately for proper punishment. The cultural exchange program must end. Any species that employed these criminals must be informed of their true nature. And if Earth refuses? Hyunwoo asked. Koltek's glowing eyes grew brighter. Then we will implement a correctional intervention. The Morthek fleet is already mobilizing. Ha-Un stood up quickly. Supreme Arbitrator, that would be a mistake. The species hosting human consultants will not react well to having their solutions taken away. They were deceived, Koltek said. Once they learn the truth, they will understand. Will they? Hyun challenged. The Krextar have won 3 major battles using Jinho's strategies. The Veldrun have increased their profits by billions using Yunhee's methods. The Zephyrians avoided a costly war thanks to Mi Young's negotiation. Do you think they will thank you for taking away the source of their success? They will thank us for exposing the deception, Kolthek replied. But his voice carried less certainty than before. Supreme Arbitrator, Dong-Hyun said carefully, what if we offered full transparency? What if we revealed the truth about our consultants, but allowed the host species to decide whether to keep them? Absolutely not, Kolthek snapped. Criminals must be punished, not rewarded. This is fundamental to civilized society. Is it? Hayun asked. Because the data suggests that your fundamental assumption might be wrong. She activated another holographic display, this one showing rehabilitation statistics from across the galaxy. Every species in the Galactic Council has the same approach to crime: punishment, imprisonment, isolation. And every species has the same result: high recidivism rates, ongoing social problems, and wasted human potential. Earth tried something different. Even if by accident, they gave criminals a chance to use their skills constructively. The result? Lower crime rates, solved problems, and transformed lives. Kolthek stared at the data for a long moment. This is chaos thinking. If criminals are not punished, others will see crime as acceptable. But what if they're punished by being forced to use their skills to help instead of harm? Hyunwoo suggested. What if the punishment is having to make up for the damage they caused? That is not how justice works, Koltek said. Maybe it's how justice should work, Hyun replied quietly. The Supreme Arbitrator looked around the room, his glowing eyes settling on each person in turn. The Morthek Collective will not change. Thousands of years of legal tradition based on one species' accidental experiment. Then you will force us to defend our people, Hyunwoo said. With what fleet? Koltek asked mockingly. Earth has 12 ships. The Morthek Collective has 12,000. Earth's fleet is not the one you should worry about, Ha-Un said softly. Koltek turned to her. Explain. The Krextar Empire, the Veldrun Federation, the Zephyrian Councils, the Techno Council of Nexus Prime, and 17 other species have formally requested that their human consultants remain permanently. They consider them essential personnel now. So if you try to forcibly remove the humans, you won't be fighting Earth's 12 ships. You'll be fighting the combined fleets of 21 different civilizations who believe you're trying to steal their most valuable advisors. For the first time since entering the room, Koltek looked uncertain. The truth is already spreading, Hayun continued. The species hosting human consultants are learning about their criminal backgrounds, and they don't care. They care about results. Some are even requesting more criminals with specific expertise. She showed them a new message that had just arrived. The Spiral Coalition wants your best financial criminals to help them understand economic fraud prevention. The mining guilds want saboteurs to help them identify weaknesses in industrial systems. "This is madness," Kolthek whispered. "This is evolution," Ha-Un replied. "The galaxy is learning that the best way to fight crime might not be punishment. It might be redemption." Outside the diplomatic center, alien ships continued to arrive, each one carrying representatives who wanted to learn more about Earth's remarkable approach to rehabilitation. The accidental experiment was becoming a revolution, and no one knew if it could be stopped. The war started with a message that reached every inhabited world in the galaxy at the same time. Supreme Arbitrator Kolthek's face appeared on billions of screens, his glowing blue eyes cold and certain. "Citizens of the galaxy," his metallic voice announced. "The Morthek Collective has discovered a great deception. The humans calling themselves cultural ambassadors are criminals. Murderers, thieves, and fraudsters have infiltrated your worlds under false pretenses. We will correct this error and restore proper order." On Earth, Admiral Kyung-Soo Jang watched the broadcast from the command center of humanity's defense station. Around him, officers prepared Earth's small fleet for what everyone knew would be a hopeless battle. "How long until the Morthek fleet arrives?" he asked. 18 hours, replied his communications officer. "They're bringing everything, Admiral. Over 10,000 ships." Kyung-Soo nodded grimly. Earth had exactly 12 functional warships and a handful of armed cargo vessels. The mathematics of the situation were simple and terrifying. But across the galaxy, other species were receiving Kolthek's message with very different reactions. On Krextar Prime, General Mokhtar slammed his 4 fists on the war table so hard that it cracked. Around him, his officers roared with anger. "Jin Ho is a criminal," Mokhtar bellowed. "So was I. I killed my own brother to become general. Does that make me worthless?" "But, sir," one of his captains said nervously, "the Morthek say he deceived us." "The Morthek lie!" Mokhtar shouted. "Jin Ho taught us to win battles we should have lost. He saved thousands of Krextar lives with his strategies. I care nothing for what he did before he came here. I care only for what he has done since." Mokhtar activated the fleet communication system. "All Krextar commanders, prepare for battle. The Morthek want to steal our strategic advisor. We will not let them." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. On Veldrun, the Commerce Guild held an emergency meeting that lasted only 5 minutes. Trader Zilksvan's wings fluttered with indignation as he spoke. Yun-Hee Nam increased. "Our profits by 40%. I do not care if she was once a criminal. I care that she made us wealthy. Any species that tries to take her away is our enemy." The Veldrun trading fleets, usually focused on commerce, began loading weapons and preparing for war. On Nexus Prime, the decision was even faster. The crystalline Nexari had always valued practical results over abstract morality. J10 showed us vulnerabilities in our security that we never imagined, declared High Curator Zenthok. "He has prevented dozens of break-ins since arriving. The Morthek can have him when they pry him from our cold, dead crystals." But the most important reaction came from the Techno Council, the artificial intelligence that governed an entire world. Taemin Lee was working in the Central Processing Core when Kolthek's message arrived. "Human Taemin," the planetary voice said, "we have processed the Morthek communication. You were a criminal on your home world." "Yes, Taemin replied simply. I broke into computer systems and stole information. I hurt people and violated their privacy. I'm not proud of what I did. Do you regret your actions? Taemin paused his work on the security algorithms he had been developing. Every day. That's why I'm trying to use my skills differently now. I want to protect systems instead of breaking them. We understand, the voice replied. We have calculated the probabilities. If the Morthek succeed in their correctional intervention, chaos-based attacks on civilized systems will increase by 67%. Your knowledge is essential for galactic security. What are you going to do? We are going to protect our investment, the Techno Council declared. Across Nexus Prime, millions of automated defense systems came online. We have also sent a message to our allies. The Morthek will find this war more difficult than they anticipate. By the time the Morthek fleet reached Earth's solar system, they found themselves facing not 12 human ships, but nearly 1,000 vessels from 21 different species. The Krextar battle fleets formed the front line, their dark ships, bristling with weapons. The Veldrun commerce vessels had been hastily converted into warships. The Zephyrian crystal ships glowed with energy weapons. And behind them all, the sleek automated ships of the Techno Council waited like patient predators. On the lead Morthek vessel, Supreme Arbitrator Kolthek stared at the opposing fleet with disbelief. They are defending criminals, he said to his tactical officer. This makes no logical sense. Supreme Arbitrator, the officer replied, our intelligence suggests they do not view the humans as criminals anymore. They view them as valuable resources. Resources? Kolthek's glowing eyes brightened with anger. They are lawbreakers, enemies of order. Sir, incoming communication from the Allied fleet. The main screen activated, showing not one face, but dozens. General Mokhtar spoke for the Krextar, Trader Zilksvin for the Veldrun, High Curator Zenthok for the Nexari, and a synthesized voice for the Techno Council. Behind them, representatives from 17 other species waited. Morthek. Fleet, General Mokhtar growled. You will withdraw immediately. The humans under our protection have committed no crimes against our peoples. They have only helped us. They deceived you, Kolthek replied. They are criminals masquerading as consultants. We know what they were, Trader Zilksvin said, his wings shimmering. We care what they are now. They are our advisors, our teachers, our friends. You will not take them. This is madness, Kolthek declared. You are protecting criminals. We are protecting beings who have proven their worth through actions, the Techno Council's voice replied. Biological entities often struggle with the concept that past behavior does not necessarily predict future behavior when circumstances change. We do not have this limitation. High Curator Zenthok leaned forward. Supreme Arbitrator, answer this question. If someone who once broke laws now uses their knowledge to prevent others from breaking laws, are they still a criminal? Yes, Kolthek snapped. Crime must be punished. This is the foundation of civilized society. Then perhaps, said a new voice, it is time to examine that foundation. The screen split to show investigator Ha-Yun Lim broadcasting from Earth. Behind her stood Captain Hyunwoo Park, Ambassador Dong-Hyun Song, and Dr. So-Jin Kim. Citizens of the galaxy, Ha-Yun began. I have spent the last month studying Earth's accidental experiment in criminal rehabilitation. The data is clear. Giving criminals a chance to use their skills constructively has reduced crime rates across 21 star systems. She activated a holographic display visible to both fleets. Traditional punishment-based justice has a 70% recidivism rate. Criminals serve their sentences and return to crime. Earth's approach has achieved a 5% recidivism rate. Their criminals become productive members of society. Lies! Koltek declared. Order demands punishment. Order demands results, General Mokhtar countered. Jinho's strategies have saved more Krextar lives than our traditional military thinking ever did. I will not sacrifice effective solutions for abstract principles. Supreme Arbitrator Ha-Un continued. You have two choices. You can attack this fleet and start a war that will tear the galaxy apart, or you can consider that maybe there is a better way to handle crime than simply locking people away. The Morthek do not negotiate with criminals or those who harbor them, Koltek declared. Then you will fight us all, said a voice that made everyone pause. On the screen, Mi Young Kang appeared. She was broadcasting from the Zephyrian flagship, but her message was reaching both fleets. Supreme Arbitrator, she said calmly. I am Mi Young Kang. I used to be a pirate. I stole cargo ships and sold their contents for profit. I hurt families and damaged the economy of 3-star systems. Kolthek leaned forward. Finally, honesty. But, Mi-young continued, 3 months ago, I prevented a war between the Zephyrian Empire and the Nexari Republic, a war that would have killed millions of people. I used the same skills I once used to steal, but I used them to save lives instead. She looked directly at the camera. So tell me, Supreme Arbitrator, which version of me is more valuable to the galaxy? The pirate who stole cargo, or the diplomat who prevents wars? Before Koltek could answer, other voices joined the broadcast. Jinho from the Krextar fleet, Yunhee from a Veldrun trade ship, Taemin from Nexus Prime, and dozens of other human criminals turned consultants. We're not asking you to forget what we did, Jinho said. We're asking you to see what we're doing now. We made mistakes, Yunhee added. Terrible mistakes that hurt people. But those mistakes taught us things that law-abiding citizens never learn. Now we use that knowledge to help instead of harm. The question isn't whether we deserve forgiveness, Taemin said. The question is whether the galaxy deserves the solutions we can provide. Across both fleets, beings who had never considered such ideas found themselves thinking. The rigid, Morthek military commanders looked at their certainty and wondered if it was enough. The allied species looked at their human advisors and realized they were watching something unprecedented. Criminals arguing not for their innocence, but for their value. Supreme Arbitrator, Ha-Un said quietly, you came here to restore order. But what if order isn't the absence of chaos? What if order is chaos transformed into something useful? Kolthek stared at the screen showing humans who admitted their crimes but demonstrated their worth. His entire worldview, built on thousands of years of Morthek law and tradition, felt suddenly fragile. Sir, his tactical officer whispered, the Allied fleet outnumbers us almost 2 to 1. If we attack, we will likely lose. And if we withdraw? Kolthek asked. Then we admit that criminals can become something other than criminals. We admit that punishment is not the only form of justice. Koltek closed his glowing eyes. When he opened them again, his voice carried a weight that everyone recognized as the sound of a world view changing. All Mortek vessels, he said slowly, stand down. We need time to consider what we have learned here. The greatest fleet battle in galactic history ended without a single shot being fired, because sometimes the most powerful weapon is not force, but the possibility that everything you believed might be wrong, 6 months after the fleets faced each other in Earth's solar system, Ambassador Dong-hyun Song walked through the corridors of the new Galactic Assembly building. The structure itself was a symbol of change, built not on any single world, but on a space station that orbited between 3 different star systems. Every species in the galaxy had contributed something to its construction. The most remarkable thing about the building was its security system. Instead of the traditional quantum locks and energy barriers, it used a network designed by former criminals from 17 different species. J1O had supervised the project, working with thieves, hackers, and con artists from across the galaxy to create defenses that could think like attackers. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said a familiar voice behind him. Dong-hyun turned to see Captain Hyun-woo Park approaching, wearing the uniform of Earth's first galactic representative. The rank was new, created specifically for humans who had proven their ability to solve problems that traditional diplomacy couldn't handle. "Hard to believe it all started with a translation error," Dong-hyun replied. "Did it, though?" Hyun-woo asked. "Sometimes I wonder if the universe just needed an excuse to try something different." They walked together toward the main assembly hall, where representatives from over 300 species were gathering for the most important vote in galactic history. The question was simple but revolutionary. Should the Galactic Council adopt the Earth Doctrine as official policy across all civilized worlds? The Earth Doctrine was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of just punishing criminals, societies should offer them chances to use their skills constructively. Those who accepted would work under supervision to repair the damage they had caused while contributing their unique knowledge to solve problems. Those who refused would face traditional punishment. "Nervous?" Hyun-woo asked as they approached the assembly hall. "Terrified," Dong-hyun admitted. "If this fails, we go back to being the galaxy's outcasts. If it succeeds, we change how justice works for billions of beings." Inside the hall, the scene was unlike anything in galactic history. At the center sat the traditional representatives from each species, but surrounding them were observers that would have been unthinkable just months before. Former criminals from dozens of worlds sat next to their victims, many of whom had become supporters of the new approach after seeing the results. Dr. So-Jin Kim sat in the Earth delegation, monitoring translation feeds to make sure no communication errors would derail this crucial moment. She had spent months developing new protocols that could handle not just language differences, but cultural concepts of justice that varied wildly between species. The session began with Supreme Arbitrator Kolthek taking the podium. The Morthek leader looked different than he had 6 months ago. His rigid posture had softened slightly, and his glowing eyes seemed less certain and more thoughtful. "Fellow beings," he began, his metallic voice echoing through the hall. "The Morthek Collective has spent the last 6 months studying the Earth experiment. Our findings challenge everything we thought we knew about justice and rehabilitation." He activated a holographic display showing crime statistics from across the galaxy. In systems that have adopted Earth-style rehabilitation programs, crime rates have dropped by an average of 37%. Recidivism rates have fallen from 70% to under 10%. Economic productivity has increased as former criminals contribute their skills to legitimate purposes. A murmur ran through the assembly. Many species had been watching the results with fascination and fear in equal measure. "However," Kolthek continued, "we must also acknowledge the risks. This approach requires trust in beings who have previously broken that trust. It requires resources for supervision and rehabilitation programs. And it requires a fundamental change in how we think about justice itself." He paused, looking around the assembly hall. The question before us is not whether the Earth approach works. The data proves it does. The question is whether we have the wisdom to embrace change when change challenges our deepest beliefs. The next speaker was General Mokhtar of the Krekstar Empire. The massive warrior took the podium with his usual commanding presence, but his words were surprisingly thoughtful. 6 months ago, I cared only about victory in battle, he said. Jinho Choi taught me that true victory comes from preventing battles that should not be fought. His criminal past gave him insights into strategy that our military academies never provided. Mokhtar gestured toward the observers section, where Jinho sat with other former criminals. These beings understand deception, desperation, and survival in ways that law-abiding citizens do not. This knowledge, properly channeled, becomes wisdom that benefits everyone. But can we trust them? Asked Representative Vorthek from the Cautious Coalition. They betrayed trust before. What prevents them from doing so again? The answer came from an unexpected source. Mi-young Kang rose from the observers section, even though she had not been scheduled to speak. Representative Vorthek, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. You're asking the wrong question. Don't ask if you can trust us. Ask if you can afford not to use us. Security moved to escort her back to her seat. But Chancellor Vexathari gestured for them to stop. Let her speak, the Chancellor said. We are here to consider new approaches. We should listen to all perspectives. Mi-young nodded gratefully. I was a pirate for 15 years. I stole from cargo ships and sold their contents for profit. In that time, I learned everything about how trade routes work, how security can be bypassed, and how criminals think. She looked around the assembly. When the Zephyrian Empire and the Nexari Republic were about to go to war, I used that knowledge to prevent it. Not because I'm a good person, but because I understand how conflicts really start and how they can be stopped. The galaxy is full of problems that law-abiding minds can't solve because they don't think like criminals. But criminals exist in every species, on every world. Instead of wasting that knowledge in prisons, why not use it to protect everyone else? Trader Zilksvan from the Veldrun Federation took the podium next. His colorful wings shimmered as he spoke. The Veldrun have always valued practical results over theoretical principles, he said. Yun He Nam increased our trade efficiency by 40%, using techniques that our business schools never taught. Her background in fraud gave her insights into customer psychology that revolutionized our entire commerce system. He activated his own display, showing economic data from the Veldrun worlds. Fraud rates have actually decreased since we began working with former criminals. When people understand how deception works, they become harder to deceive. The debate continued for hours. Some species expressed concerns about the message this approach might send. Others worried about the resources required. But gradually, a consensus began to emerge, not around the perfect solution, but around the practical one. Finally, investigator Ha-Yun Lim took the podium. She had been officially appointed as the first director of Galactic Rehabilitation Studies, a position created specifically to oversee the expansion of Earth-style programs. Fellow beings, she said, we face a choice between the justice we have always known and the justice we could create. The old way is familiar, predictable, and largely ineffective. The new way is uncertain, challenging, and remarkably successful. She gestured toward the mixed crowd of representatives, victims, and former criminals. Look around this hall. 6 months ago, these groups would never have sat together. Today, former victims work alongside former criminals to solve problems neither could handle alone. The Earth Doctrine is not about forgetting crimes or abandoning punishment. It is about recognizing that punishment without purpose is just revenge, while punishment with purpose becomes rehabilitation. The vote, when it came, was closer than supporters had hoped, but decisive enough to matter. 237 species voted to adopt the Earth Doctrine as official galactic policy. 83 voted against, 15 abstained. As the results were announced, Dong-hyun felt a mixture of relief and terror. Earth had just convinced the galaxy to fundamentally change how justice worked. The responsibility was enormous. After the session, he found himself in the station's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. Hyun-woo joined him, along with Dr. So-jin Kim and several of the former criminals who had become the faces of the rehabilitation movement. "So, what happens now?" asked Tae-min Lee. "Now the real work begins," So-jin replied. "We have to prove this can work on a galactic scale. And if it doesn't?" asked Yoon-hee Nam. "Then we'll have to figure out why and fix it," Hyun-woo said. "That's what humans do. We adapt." Jin-ho laughed. "You know what's funny? We started this because aliens thought we were giving them our most desired citizens. Turns out they were right." "How so?" Dong-hyun asked. "Think about it," Jin-ho replied. "Who else could have convinced the galaxy to change thousands of years of legal tradition? Who else could have shown them that criminals could become heroes? Only people who had been both." As they watched, the first ships began arriving at the Yas station. They carried prisoners from across the galaxy, criminals who had volunteered for the new rehabilitation programs rather than serve traditional sentences. Each ship also carried victims who had chosen to participate in the restorative justice process, working alongside those who had harmed them to prevent similar crimes. "You know what I realized today?" Mi-young said quietly. "We're not just former criminals anymore. We're pioneers. We're the first generation of a completely new approach to justice." "Does that make you proud?" So-jin asked. Mi-young considered the question. "It makes me hopeful. For the first time in my life, I feel like my mistakes might actually lead to something good." Outside the observation lounge, the galaxy continued its ancient dance of stars and planets, but something fundamental had changed. Criminals were no longer just punished and forgotten. They were given chances to transform their understanding of systems and rules into wisdom that could protect others. The translation error that had started it all was now preserved in the new Galactic Assembly's central archive, labeled as the most fortunate mistake in galactic history. Because sometimes the best solutions come not from following the rules, but from accidentally breaking them in exactly the right way. And across hundreds of worlds, beings who had once been unwanted were discovering that they had always been desired. They just needed someone to see their potential instead of only their past.